Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Quest by Community. And today we're going to be introducing a really important conversation, and that's about women's sport and the importance of women's sport in determining the promotion of gender equality and inclusivity in the sporting world in Australia, and why it's important for us to really consider supporting our women and really getting into the spaces of becoming members and really cheering on those incredible sporting athletes. And today we are very privileged because we're going to be speaking with Caitlin Bunker, who has recently been appointed as the Pride Cup's new engagement director. Caitlin leads the Pride Cup's work with sports clubs across Australia, supporting all the partners to host the iconic Pride Cups and deliver education about LGBTIQ plus inclusion. Caitlin comes to the Pride Cup after 5 years with a global humanitarian and development agency, creating and delivering fundraising, advocacy, brand awareness, and digital marketing campaigns. She's passionate about creative campaigns that lead to social change. Welcome, Caitlin.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really thrilled to be here with you today, Ricki, and to share a little bit about my story and Pride Cup's story.
And as we deep dive into this important space, let's start by first unpacking the acronym VFLW. What does that stand for?
So, the VFLW is essentially the Victorian Football League for Women. So, it essentially sits under the AFLW, which many of the listeners today will know as the women's competition for AFL. It's, yeah, the kind of second tier, I suppose, and we work with the AFLW players who are kind of developing to kind of sharpen their skills and help them get a place in their AFLW team, while also kind of developing the game for women across Victoria. So that's a little bit about the competition and why it exists. AFL as a sport for women has existed for a really long time, but the VFLW competition has existed, I think, for maybe since 2018. So, in its current format, with the sort of AFL aligned clubs like Collingwood participating. So, that's a little bit of history for you around our competition.
What got you interested in sport?
I was always a really sporty kid. I would always be in the backyard. I played a lot of softball growing up. I started softball when I was 5. It's kind of always been a part of my identity. I played softball right up until I was around 18 or 19. And then as I was starting university and leaving high school, friends had started playing AFL in Canberra and encouraged me to come down, said that they thought it was a really great, inclusive, fun community and really excellent sport. And so I went on down and just met such an amazing rainbow group of people who were really proud of who they were and really inclusive and welcoming. And, right at that time was sort of where I was coming to terms with my own sexuality. I identify as a lesbian woman, and I really found a safe space to learn a lot about who I am, in that space, and was really encouraged to be my full self. So, my love, I suppose, of the sport has always been there. I was a Sydney Swan supporter growing up, and I just have found, it's such a safe and inclusive and welcoming space, which isn't everybody's experience. Actually, probably not many people's experience, and I think that has sort of really driven my passion into moving into Pride Cup, because I think that sporting organisations really are the centre of community, particularly in Australia. It's such a place where you can experience togetherness. You can really learn who you are, and you can, you spend your weekends watching your friends, and those people become your family. And I sort of really wanted to help shape a world in which everybody felt welcome to participate in sport, whether as a spectator or a coach or an athlete, irrespective of their gender or sexual identities.
And what led you specifically to select Collingwood as your space?
Yeah, good question. As a Swan supporter growing up, my best friend was a Collingwood supporter, and yeah, always a bit of a rivalry. I remember driving all the way from Canberra to Sydney and back in one night to watch whenever Sydney would play Collingwood in the men's AFL at the time. There was no women's competition across the country, at least. Um, so I wasn't the biggest Collingwood fan, but I moved to Melbourne. I'm, as I said, from Canberra, so I moved to Melbourne 5 years ago. I was really lucky at that time to be friends with Maddie Chevler. At the time, she was at Collingwood and encouraged me a few weeks after I moved to Melbourne to come and trial at Collingwood. She had a conversation with Penny Cooler-Reid, who is just a formidable force in the history of women's AFLW. Has gone to court to kind of advocate for women to participate in the sport. And she was the head coach at the time. And I was really inspired by her. And when I walked in the doors, there really felt like it was, an inclusive, welcoming space in the women's program. And in sport, I think you take your opportunities when they come if it feels right. And yeah, I certainly haven't looked back. So yeah, this sort of Sydney Swan supporter who wasn't quite sure on Collingwood has now had a really fabulous 5 years.
And for me, I'm somebody who grew up many decades ago watching football on television and trying to find my sense of identity. And it was quite difficult growing up in the 70s and 80s because I was always perceived as different. I was almost not given allowed or permission to kind of appreciate football. And that to me was quite devastating for a long time. And then I remember in the 90s hearing about something called, um, like in Collingwood, I think it was called Pink, the
Mhm.
Pink Rainbows,
Yeah.
or all that. And I thought, oh, so you can be openly LGBTIQ and be part of a club. Was there a period in time, do you think, that kind of opened up that space for our community to kind of be officially part of sporting spaces?
Traditionally, particularly the AFL, hasn't been, and the environments in which people go to AFL men's games, and there was a real fierce rivalry across all teams, and people were really passionate about which team they went to, but they were really um, quite, I suppose you could say, like masculine spaces in quite a toxic way. There was a lot of anger, there was a lot of drinking, there's a lot of gambling associated with that, and um, women weren't, women weren't encouraged to be in that space, let alone anybody who, didn't have a cisgender identity or, had a diverse sexual or gender identity. That's not a safe and welcoming space for anybody to feel like being themselves. And I'm only 30, but I think there, for me, as someone who kind of grew up um, at the time that the AFLW started, that was, I think, 8 years ago now. I think AFLW, in terms of like creating a safe environment for spectators, it's really challenged that kind of historic, um, I guess, picture of what a supporter can be, what an environment surrounding a football field can feel like. Can it be inclusive? Can it be family centered? At the moment, we've got the AFLW Pride Round on, and every single person who's attending is wearing a rainbow. They're holding hands with their partner. We have these amazing stories of players who, are married to their teammates or having babies with their teammates and really just celebrating who they are, who they love. We have incredible non-binary players being encouraged by their football clubs to be out and proud, and it just really challenges that narrative that football and sporting environments are for people who kind of fit a particular mold. So I think at least in my lifetime, that's kind of when I really saw like a change in what, in the kind of spaces that people feel safe, and I think it's really positive that women are sort of leading that charge.
Why is it important in disclosing sexuality and gender affirmation in a sporting space?
Every LGBTIQ plus person has the right to feel included and accepted and proud to be who they are. you shouldn't have to fit yourself into an arbitrary category to participate in something that is just so integral to community. It's all about health, it's about positivity, togetherness, as I said before. In my own experience, sporting clubs really are like families, and that's such a positive experience that I've had. I love that at my club. Half of my team came to my wedding. My wife is just a part of my team, and game day and the lives of my friends that I've made through my football team as I am. And every person should feel really encouraged to turn up to a space like that and feel welcome to be completely themselves. Um, I think it's really hard to fully experience something in life when all of your energy is going towards hiding who you are, and trying to make yourself feel safe. So I think having the ability to, the term was kind of disclosing sexuality, but just to, not even to have to disclose it, right? Like to just be able to feel comfortable enough to just say, when someone asks you about your life, yeah, I have a wife, in my case. Or, I actually identify as non binary, and to not feel threatened or feel like you have to hide, and not be your full self around people who, for me are in my life 15 to 20 hours a week, by choice. So I think it's really important when we talk about, sport and community and safety. They're all intertwined, and we actually see better, mental and physical health outcomes for queer people, as a result of sport and participating in community. And I don't think that the importance of being able to feel safe in sport can be overstated.
As a spectator myself who loves watching uh, women in football, and one of the reasons for me really enjoying that is I really feel safe when I go to a match. And for the first time, in my love of football, I don't feel people are staring at me or trying to work me out. And I just wanted to, I guess, highlight that and perhaps to ask you how important are spectators when it comes to being involved in part of the game?
When we talk about community, it's everybody having a place. And some of the, like in my own experience, some of the supporters of our team are the most passionate, brilliant, supportive, amazing individuals. And I think at the higher levels that there's a lot of media, there's a lot of sponsorship, there's a lot of support for those teams. But when you're looking, anywhere below the sort of elite level of sports, um, it is the fans who really do the work of creating a platform and a space for these athletes who are often not paid. Like Bernie at the Collingwood Football Club is such an avid fan of our VFLW program. She's constantly posting updates on a Facebook page, and like my family are all in Canberra, so over the last 5 years of me playing, they've managed to sort of keep up with what's happening with the team through fans who are really so passionate about the teams that they support. And I'm sure you could speak to this, Ricki, but I think even, as a fan, as a player, as a coach, as a volunteer, whatever it is, people choose to be a fan, or to be, to feel a sense of identity and pride in a sporting club, because it resonates with who they are. It's something that they're passionate about. And, I think for a lot of people, riding the highs and lows of sport with a team really gives them a purpose. And fans make like so many people I know have made friends just from sitting at a footy match next to somebody and striking up a conversation. It's such a authentic way to meet people and celebrate and feel positive and get behind something that you believe in. So I don't think you can have sport without the fans. I think it's just part. They're an element of making sporting communities what they are.
And now we're going to really unpack and deep dive everything about the Pride Cup. I'm someone who just loves it to death. I must admit. But let's unpack that for some listeners who are new or who are really excited. Maybe they're watching with their children and think this is a wonderful way to start being connected. So, if we can now, let's unpack what is the Pride Cup?
So Pride Cup, we're a not-for-profit organisation. We work with sporting teams from all levels, from elite sports to regional community sporting teams, essentially to help them challenge homophobia and transphobia within sporting clubs, which essentially results in making them more welcoming for LGBTIQ plus fans, players and officials. Essentially, the kind of purpose is that through connecting with community clubs of all codes, so all sporting codes, we can help them run their own Pride Cup matches, and also to attend our education sessions. So we're sort of working with them to host a match that's a celebration and to bring education into their, club rooms. And essentially through doing that, we empower them to become leaders for inclusivity and diversity in their own communities. What a Pride Cup actually is, it's basically a joyous event. It's a celebratory, statement of love and acceptance, not just for the players, but for spectators and members of the local LGBTIQ plus community. And they have a really, immediate and direct impact. Yeah, any sporting team from any code can host a Pride game. It can be between themselves and a direct opposition, or a club could have a day where many teams in their own club play many teams from different clubs, and you have a celebration throughout the whole day with multiple matches. Or you can actually, if you're, a member of a sporting body like Lacrosse Victoria, they, every year have a Pride round across their whole league, and you can organise to run like a league-wide Pride round across numerous clubs and divisions. So yeah, all you need to do is basically register your intended date on our website, and then the kind of value that we provide is that we can reach out and support, club community organisers to gain support from their own sort of league administrators or their board, and then we support right through to planning the event. We also deliver inclusion education sessions that kind of meet teams where they're at on their journey, and then we help them execute the physical match or round as well.
How long has the Pride Cup been celebrated?
Pride Cup essentially began as this amazing gesture of mateship in a country footy club, and it's now grown into a national movement for change that really unites communities. Jason Ball, who is one of our founders and currently is on our board, he came out as gay in 2012 to his teammates from the Yarra Glen Football Netball Club, and they wanted to show him that they had his back. So the team came up with this idea to stage a Pride Cup, and they had players wearing rainbow jumpers, and the 50-metre line was painted in rainbow colours, and it attracted mass media. It really galvanised the entire community, and being here in Victoria, it was, it's the heart of footy, and it really became the inspiration for what is now the annual AFL Pride game, which was first played between St Kilda and Sydney in 2016. And yeah, so, since hitting the national stage, communities of across Australia have sort of seen this, whether through word of mouth or through the media, and have put their hands up and said, "Hey, this is something we want in our community." And now we are in. I think we've reached over 700 different teams across. I can't even remember the figure, but just so many different sporting codes. We've got roller derby, we've got water polo, we've got basketball, and it's really exciting to see every sporting community feeling like this is something they can personalize and help. It kind of uses a point in the year where they can really show their values as a club and make it feel like a welcoming space for anyone who wants to join.
And as you were speaking, I was thinking to myself, what about those people who are watching at the moment and perhaps they've turned 18 and they think, yes, I really want to, I'm passionate, I would love to play football. How can they reach out to the clubs if they were interested to, like, what's the process?
To join a team,
Yes.
most teams will have a website, and I know that you can kind of directly reach out and express interest. There's at least in my experience, footy clubs are there's 20 odd people on the field every game, and that's a lot to field. So I know that there's always people welcoming new players left, right, and centre. I also know that you can, depending on the sport you want to play, you can reach out to the national body, and usually they can kind of connect you with a club local to your area that probably they'd be able to guide you on in terms of values, which teams might be able to support you as well. So, usually you'll find that the kind of national bodies have a really good understanding of, the teams and what their needs are, and how they can kind of join and at what point in the year.
For all those people listening out there who are sort of screaming at the television right now to say, I want to become involved. What can I do to help to promote the Pride Cup? What sort of roles and how can people get involved?
We exist to create safe sporting communities, and that's for every single person who wants to be involved. So, if you're a spectator or a coach, a family member of a player, a volunteer, a board member, a player yourself, or even just a sports fan in general, there's everyone can be involved in organising a Pride Cup. If you are a player or a coach or a volunteer within a specific club, you can put your hand up to host a game. You don't need to know all the details. All you need is kind of curiosity and enthusiasm, and you can register your interest to host a match on our website. But you can also attend a match. You can buy merch, wear your rainbow scarf loud and proud. You can also donate to us as an organisation. As I said, we're a not-for-profit, so those who have the capacity to do that, we welcome people to make a donation to support our work. But we've also recently held Watch with Pride parties, and this kind of speaks to what we were talking to before around the kind of spectator environment being a safe one. And as you sort of mentioned, historically, that football fields, but not just football fields, lots of sort of sporting environments in big stadiums haven't always felt like the most welcoming or safe spaces. So when the Matildas, our beloved Matildas, when they played in the World Cup recently, Pride Cup came up with this idea to hold Watch with Pride parties, and it was essentially a way that communities, LGBTIQ communities, and allies could connect to kind of create safe spaces to watch Matildas matches around the country. Especially for those who couldn't get tickets. And so we created different regional events where people could come and meet new people and connect and engage sports fans who are, identify as LGBTIQ or allies who are really passionate about allyship. And you could come together and watch the Matildas matches, connect with others, and really celebrate Pride, which is really fabulous. And we're looking at kind of extending the Watch with Pride parties beyond the World Cup now. We recently held a Watch with Pride party in Abbotsford, and that was to support the Matildas' next game. But we're really looking at just sort of creating safe environments for people to come together and create community around support if they sort of still don't feel safe in some environments to watch. So there's kind of a range of ways that anyone can be involved. We're more than happy to kind of field any questions or help with any specific circumstances. We just want everyone to feel like sport is a place that they belong.
Will you be considering to go to Midsummer?
We were at Midsummer last year. I wasn't with Pride Cup at the time, but I know that we had a fabulous double stall, and we had some Melbourne Victory players like Alex Chidiac come down and help out. And we were just there essentially to participate in the amazing positive vibe at Midsummer and have conversations with people who are, really curious about exactly what we're talking about and how they can be involved in sport and feel safe and feel welcomed. And it's actually really great. I'm sure you've been many times, but it's a really great, supportive, inclusive, positive environment, and we love to connect with people at Midsummer, and we'll definitely be there.
One of the things too, Caitlin, that's so exciting about the Pride Cup is that people at my age can still be involved and be part of that space. And for people listening, one of the things I love about the Pride Cup is that all the people who are participating in the sports are so approachable. I know it's we hear about AFL all the time in the past, but with these spaces, you really can get to know. And you mentioned before about getting to know the players and really forming a kind of close relationship. And I think that's one of the bonuses of really getting involved in local community sports. And those in a community who have young children can really bring them into this really safe space and to really encourage them to participate and develop those sorts of spaces. So, just for those who have young children, do you have events that can bring young children around as well to support them in getting to know all the team?
We're more than happy for kids to come along to any Watch with Pride events that we have. But also, I think kids can be just as involved in Pride Cups around the country. Many clubs across different sports will have kids' teams. And as I was saying before, clubs can opt to host a Pride Day at their club. Recently, we held some interviews with some of our community organisers who have been around for a few years to think about how we can kind of grow on the services that we offer and provide more support to kind of make these events bigger and better. And a lot of them mentioned that there were kids who would, buy Pride socks on the day and then they wouldn't take them off for weeks. They'd be wearing them to every training session, and that visibility extends beyond just game day. The other thing that I really want to mention is, and when you're talking about these kind of role models, right, across particularly women's sport who have, it is it is a right to feel safe to be who you are and love who you love and do that publicly and openly and proud. And to have these women who are leading the way in doing that, and to have kids, you can't be what you can't see. And to see like these amazing sports stars who are just so openly non-binary or queer, or that there's sort of just such a range of identities, gender and sexuality identities, and kids can look up to these people and say, hey, I actually will belong someday if this is a path I want to take in numerous sports. I can love who I love and be successful in sport and be loved by my teammates and by fans. And I think that the power of that is just so important. So, yeah, we encourage kids to be involved in anything that we offer. Yeah, we're definitely welcoming kids. We think, yeah, the more we start talking about inclusivity and diversity, um, the better.
And what kind of impact has the Pride Cup have in raising awareness about LGBTIQ rights and inclusivity in sport?
So our theory of change is essentially to create a world where every LGBTIQ plus person is included and accepted and proud to be who they are. Um, we know that LGBTIQ plus people experience worse mental and physical health outcomes than the general population. And we know that sporting clubs are key in Australia as the heart of the community, and that, really about creating social connection and physical health. However, only 6% of LGBTIQ plus people are involved in team sport. And recent research shows that 80% of people have witnessed discrimination. So, it's it's still, we have a lot of work to do, and I think the role for Pride Cup to help kind of shift these stats, right, and essentially save lives. This is what it results in. But it's, sporting clubs are really under resourced, and often, even if they really do feel proud and like they have created a safe environment, they, sometimes can struggle to be able to take visible and meaningful education and culture change activities. So, as I said before, education is really kind of key to making that change possible. And we do that for free with regional community clubs. But when we talk about impact, Monash University and Vic Health have found that Pride Cup clubs actually report 4 times less homophobic behaviour and attitudes than other clubs. So, our kind of model is research based, and these impacts ripple out to the wider community, right? Like making entire communities actually feel like there's a safe space, and that they're more inclusive for its LGBTIQ members. And as you said, we're talking about people of all abilities. We support all abilities sports clubs. We're able to sort of meet clubs where they're at with whatever needs they have, and we everybody, as I said, everybody has the right to participate and feel safe in these environments, and that includes people of all abilities.
The other thing I really love about all the Pride Cup events is that compared to some other sporting spaces that cost so much to go to an event with families or friends, that it's so affordable. And how do you make these costs so affordable so for all of us to really partake in such a great event?
It's a tough one. I think when we're looking at women's professional sport, elite sport, you're right. The tickets are kind of usually cheaper, and I think that, yeah, the tension between money and inclusivity is really interesting. Um, when you're looking at men's elite sports kind of events, the tickets will often be a lot more expensive. And, at least personally, it makes me wonder around organizations really valuing their women's teams, right? Like we saw the Matildas sell out stadiums, and it was so fabulous that anybody or most people could afford to attend those matches and see their idols. I think it's just so fabulous. And I don't know that I would change that, but yeah, when we're looking at men's sport, it can be really expensive and in a way exclusive. And I think we need to find ways to create opportunities for everybody to be able to attend and pay what they can. I don't think anybody should be excluded based on their ability to pay for a ticket. So that's an interesting point. The other thing is around community sports. A lot of our work isn't actually in the elite space. We do support, the AFL Pride match and some of the AFLW clubs in their activations during their Pride rounds. But a lot of what we do is at the community level, and often those matches aren't ticketed, and often those are the most accessible matches for people because they're just down the road, and they are, they're local, and people can just rock up and participate in whichever way is necessary. And I think that's a real positive around our ability to work with community clubs.
And where do you see the Pride Cup in its future in the next couple of years?
We're in a really exciting growth phase. We'd really love to look at scaling our model so that we can provide kind of different tiers of education. We know that every club has a really different experience, and there are a lot of different kind of cultures within different sporting teams. It's really varied based on location and the kind of makeup of different communities, and we want to meet people where they're at. We think trust kind of only it only grows as fast as or sorry, progress really only grows as fast as trust does. Um, and we want to be able to sort of extend the services that we provide to people who aren't just based in Australia eventually as well. So we'd love to sort of be able to provide services for coaches and players who just want to quickly access stories or videos or tools to help them tackle immediate issues in their own clubs as well. So we're not quite sure what avenues or what that will look like yet, but it's definitely on the cards for us to kind of expand and reach as many community clubs, not just in Australia, but worldwide as well.
Caitlin Bunker, it's been an absolute privilege of having you here on Quest by Community. And for all those people listening out there, please get involved, support your local clubs, um, demand and jump up and down and say, I want the Pride Cup to be involved in this space. And, if you can give something to the community back, this I think is a worthwhile cause because you're giving it for the whole community, for a young generation, for an older generation. Why not spend a weekend going out to events that are safe and supportive? Thank you so much for being on our space today.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really appreciated it. And if anybody wants to reach out and have a conversation about Pride Cup, just head to our website, pridecup.org.au.